Hey howdy guys, happy holidays, I hope you all are enjoying holidays. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto has Ddraig and Albion. This is part 2 and if you want second part of this video, please leave a like, it helps me to motivate to upload more. Also huge shout out the author of this story, Hector Flores, and all details in description. Let's get in the video. I walked over to Sasuke and the first thing that greets me is the glares I get from Sakura. Well, what can I possibly expect from her? A good morning, or did you have sleep well? I should think not. I walked over and sat down right between Sasuke and Sakura. Honestly, I think I saw Sasuke actually smile as I did that. Well, call it a goodwill sacrifice. I had to stand being near Sakura and the stench she was giving off. I really wish she would be more liberal with the way she uses that perfume of hers. So everyone ready for the exam? I just know it will be something horrible. Have you read about the types of exams they put teens through in the past? Sakura kept ignoring me and glaring at me like I had done something against her family. Actually, Naruto, I have read a few things about it from the few diaries that were in the Uchiha archives. Which do you find to be the single most insidious test? I personally don't like the hide or fail exam myself. The one that the team has to hide for 2 hours, and if they find one of the team, the entire team fails. I looked at Sasuke and began laughing. Oh, that exam is a dream compared to the one I read from the book I read in the library. It's called the bell exam. The instructor told the team that they had to get a bell from him, and they would have to fight him with intent to kill. I mean, talk about one-sided exams. We have to match the skills of a high-ranking ninja when we are nothing more than fresh out of the academy genin. I looked at Sakura, she was still not paying attention. Sasuke was nodding, realizing what I was saying. I see what you are saying. As a Junin, there is no way a genin can match his skills. He can evade anything the genin can do, and worse, they know more than the genin could ever know. I began to nod my head. Yay, it's like expecting the field mouse to kill a tiger. To make matters worse, the field mouse is barely off the tit. We might have learned a few things in the academy, but to reach our instructor's rank he had to get a whole lot stronger, polished those skills like there was no tomorrow, acquired experience and skills the academy doesn't even teach. That is when Kakashi decided to jump from behind the monument that was in the field. Naruto, from your introduction I got the feeling that you didn't care. I have to say you really surprised me. I had no idea that you could show such respect and admiration. I have to tell you on behalf of myself and all the other Junin in the village, thank you for acknowledging our dedication. I can't help but to smile as you recognize the difference in skill and strength. Quote. I looked at him and he was still looking at that stupid orange book. Except that most Junin actually arrive at the meeting with their team on time. They don't sit behind a large rock reading a book. What is that thing? Icha? Didn't the women of the entire fire country once tried to get as S-rank mission to have every one of those books burned? He put the book away into his belt pouch and even I could tell he was smiling. Actually they did, but the Hokage loves literature as much as I do. Now let's get to why we are meeting today. Sorry to tell you, Naruto, we are doing the bell test, except with one little change. He took the bells out of his pocket and I was having a bad feeling about this. He was holding only 2 bells, which to me means that one student was going to fail no matter what. As you said, Naruto, we have to polish our skills and perfect them. That takes time. So I am a very busy person. So in this bell test only 2 of you will pass, and 1 of you will fail no matter what you do. You have 30 minutes to take the bells from me. You can ambush me, fight me to get them. Nothing is off limits. The bad news is the time began to count when I showed you the bells, so what will it be? One look at Sasuke and he nodded his head, like we would just tell you, see ya. We each took off and I began sending shadow clones transformed into each of us in different directions. This should give us a chance to come up with a plan. We met at the farthest distance from the monument that we could go. Alright, what is the plan, Naruto? Sakura first complained that Sasuke would be better to formulate a plan, but I was not in any mood to pay attention to her stupidity. Sakura here will be our decoy. She will pretend that she is burning a copy of Icha. I got a copy of Icha Paradise from a dumpster near my home. While Kakashi is busy trying to save his precious treasure, Sasuke and I steal the bells. I will toss them both between each other and we will buy enough time to pass. Sakura was not liking the plan. It was easy to see how she was biting her own lower lip and practically growling at me. Before you object, we all have to agree that he modified the test to make us turn on each other. The last thing the village wants is for me to pass, so this would make the villagers and most ninja very happy. So before you say anything, You two are taking the bells. If it means I have to fail for you two to pass, well, I will have another year to polish my skills. Quote. Sakura looked like I had said something that she was not expecting. All right, as long as I can be with Sasuke, I don't have anything to say against the plan. Turns out Sasuke was the one that was glaring at me in the end. Guess the idea of being alone with Sakura was something we both disliked. The plan was going off without a problem. Sakura set the copy I got on fire, and sure enough Kakashi went to try and put the fire out, screaming about his precious being in danger. I got the bells rather quickly using a substitution jutsu. I left a pair of iron balls the same size and weight of the bells. We both took off, and wouldn't you know it, the second we took off it was the second he had finished putting the flames out. He took off after us and he began chasing us as we basically began to play hot potato with the bells. And sure enough we kept Kakashi trying to catch the bells or take them from us. Enough fooling around, guys, give me the bells. I quickly looked at Sasuke, and just as Sakura came into view I knew that the time was up. I tossed one bell each and they each caught it. Sorry instructor, time's up. Looks like Sakura and Sasuke have each a bell. Well, tough luck for me. I guess it's back to the academy for me. Good luck being in a team with the Banshee cousin. Be sure to tell me how she messed up your mission. I could use a laugh since I will be stuck repeating a year at the academy. Sakura looked like she won a prize for a second. I don't think so, Naruto. You don't pass, I am not going to keep this bell. It was your plan that helped us get the bells to begin with. I ain't going to play you like that, cousin. You fail, we both go back to the academy for another year. I looked at Sasuke and could not help but to laugh. You don't fool me, cousin. You just don't want to be stuck with the Banshee and end up doing missions with just the two of you. He began laughing as I said that. You sure are a genius, Naruto. It's a real wonder why they call you the dead last when you figured me out so easily. Sakura looked at her bell and she actually tossed it at me. I caught it. I don't need to owe a freak like you any favors. If Sasuke is going back, I have no reason to actually pass, and Sasuke is right. You came up with the plan and it actually worked. We all pass or we all fail. If you fail, Sasuke will fail on purpose. Kakashi looked at us and was glaring at us. Do you idiots even know what this test was supposed to be testing? We each turned to look at him and began shaking our heads as he said that. We decided to tell him together, teamwork. The look of shock and the immediate laughter that was heard in the training field was like Kakashi heard the best joke in the history of comedy. I can't believe it, you are the first team ever to figure this out. I guess you realized that the two bells was to make you turn on each other. Sometimes for the benefit of the team, a member needs to do something that is not beneficial or even good for one team member. Sometimes a team member needs to sacrifice for the good of the team. I guess this means the team passes. Now open those ears. A person that abandons a mission is scum, but a person that abandons their teammates is worse than scum. Come on, let's go to the office of the Hokage and get our first mission as a team. I walked with them and I swear it took a great deal of effort for me to keep my composure. The way Sasuke and Sakura were so excited it made me shake my head. Didn't these two ever bother reading about mission classification and ranking at all? I knew that the missions we would get were going to be boring, if not feel like an absolute waste of time. They were meant to let new ninja teams to work on teamwork, build a civil working relationship with each other, to trust and be able to work as a team. I still considered them a waste of my time. Thanks to my shadow clones I could do 10 of these before lunch and still not feel tired. As I walked through the doors I saw the Hokage pretend to be actually busy. Yes, your team seemed to pass. That is something that I was not expecting. Kakashi, let me get your mission scroll. I need to make sure I get the appropriate one. It took 20 minutes of me seeing him to pretend to look for a mission scroll that finally was enough for me to lose my patience. If I continued to look at Sasuke and Sakura I would be screaming at how dumb their reaction was. Look, stop messing up with them. We both know that the missions for new teams are in the pile of scrolls right next to the C rank mission. Just give us our D rank glorified chore so we can get them done as quickly as possible. The Hokage began laughing as I said that. Do you have a problem with the D rank missions, Naruto? I looked at him and Sakura was already glaring at me. Sasuke was just staring at me with the cold stare of a dead fish. Look, D rank missions are just chores we do around the village. They're easy, pay is the worst, and unlike these people I would need to do about 100 of them to be able to buy a single kunai. How about this, you give me 10 D rank missions per day. I will do all the work. Sakura can slack off trying to make herself more appealing. Kakashi can spend that time teaching Sasuke, and I will get the pay and maybe be able to eventually buy something useful. The Hokage stopped looking at the scrolls and looked at me with a bit of anger in his eyes, and his killer intent was being felt by everyone in the room. Next to a dragon's, his was nothing to even affect me, but the two in my team looked like they were ready to lose control of their bladders. What do you mean it would take you 100 D-rank missions to buy a kunai? Is there something that the merchants in the village doing that I have not been told? I looked at him and began shaking my head. I knew his secretary was not giving him my messages. The fact that he didn't know what my messages said was more than enough proof. You mean your secretary didn't give you my messages about the shops charging me 10 times the normal rate for anything, the grocers denying to sell me any food, and only Ichiraku Ramen is the only place where they will sell me any food? That actually made him stand from his seat and push the intercom button so hard that I heard the thing crack. Haruno. What is the meaning of this I hear? Naruto has left messages and you dare not deliver them. You better have a good explanation or you will be out of a job and lose your council seat by the time I am through with you. The frantic voice of Sakura's mother was heard. She was almost in tears, or at least that is what she was pretending to be. I am sorry, Lord Hokage, but every time he delivered your message you told me not to interrupt your personal reading time. I always put them near the edge of my desk near the door to your office. I guess they must have fallen in the garbage can without me noticing. I am truly sorry. Please tell me the Hokage is not going to believe this ridiculous excuse. One or twice sure that can happen, but 6 years, once a week, that amount of messages could not be an accident. He sat down and I got a bad feeling about this. I see. Well, everyone can make a mistake. Just make sure you are more careful with all the future messages from Naruto. Damn it, if this guy is so blind to the obvious malicious intent of her secretary, it's no wonder Orochimaru managed to do so many unethical and downright cruel things to those people he kidnapped from the village. The man was a mass murderer in all accounts and he was still alive. After seeing this I got the feeling that if he came right back and just asked him to be forgiven, Hiruzen Sarutobi would simply hug his former student and tell him that of course he would forgive him and that it was all water under the bridge. Sorry Naruto, but if you know the reason for the ranking of missions, then you know there is a purpose to assigning one per team. Mind telling me why do we assign genin teams 1D rank mission per day? I looked at him and I was now the one having my killer intent leaking, and they did look like they needed to go to the bathroom. Because we need to work on getting used to working together, develop and learn teamwork techniques, and to allow us to train together so we be able to trust each other. Quote. He actually was smiling as I said that. Exactly, that is the reason. Now that you understand, let me give the D rank mission for today. He grabbed one and was about to hand it to use when I decided to say my opinion on the matter. I have no need to do any of that junk. I could work on teamwork building exercises till the sun explodes, and that is not going to change the fact that my team feel as much love, kindness, and care as the rest of the village does, meaning none at all. Sasuke and Sakura may be swimming in privileges and money, but I have to earn a living and 1D rank mission will not even feed a canary. At least let me do 5 missions per day. That should give Sasuke enough time to get ready. And well, there is no helping Sakura if she doesn't actually put any effort besides fashion, makeup and her diet. He looked at me and told me to calm down. Look Naruto, now that I know that they are overcharging you for everything you need, I will take care of it. There is no need for you to push yourself that much. 1D rank mission is more than enough to make enough money to survive, trust me. Sakura looked at me and she tried to hit me on my head. I took the hit, only because I knew it would actually hurt her more than it would hurt me. The scream and tears on her face told me that she wouldn't try to do that any time in a hurry. You need to respect the Lord Hokage. As a ninja he is our leader. He took 4 more scrolls. If it will help you Naruto, I will accept that you do 5 missions while I talk to the merchants in our village. I trust you have no other complaints. I watched as Kakashi took the 5 scrolls and I just told him not for today, but the week was just starting. 60 of these damned chores, he called them missions, but I called them a pain in my scaly rear end. The worst one was dealing with that miserable fur ball. I know that most ninjas called that thing the terror of Konoha, but let's face it, the owner of was the real horror. I never have seen a woman that fat in my entire life. The way Tora explained it to me was that he had to run away or else the monster woman that was married to the leader of our country would hold him so tightly he felt his tail would come out of his mouth. For once in all these missions I actually wanted to fail, but that wouldn't be fair. I caught the cat no less than 5 times, and today I had to make certain this mission would never be assigned to anyone else again. As we returned to the office, the large-boned woman was waiting for us. Large-boned, my scaly butt. This woman was fat, and I mean she made even the biggest member of the Akamiki clan look skinny compared to her. So you have my precious. Oh, don't keep me waiting, I can't wait to hug him, pet him, and carry him in my arms. Even I knew the look Taro was giving me, and for once in my life, I actually felt pity for the poor cat. Look, lady, I hate to tell you, this cat been telling me why he runs away from you so often. Your so-called hugs and your holding him is torture to the poor little feline. Honestly, from the way he told me, you got a grip that can bend metal bars. Quote. She looked at me and then at the cat. Well, I could deny it and say that how could you say such thing about a delicate lady like myself, but it is true, I do have quite the grip. I should feel insulted, but in truth, I am flattered that someone recognized my strength. So tell me, how will you let me take my precious Taro from you? I looked at the cat and it began to shiver. I looked at her and began to shake my head. You need to learn to hold him more gently. When you learn to hold 3 eggs in your hands without breaking them, I will give you the chance to hold Taro once again. Quote. Sure enough, the Hokage brought enough eggs to fill a store display, and sure enough, she began to crack them to pieces as she tried to hold them. I told her to watch her grip, to limit her strength, to be conscious of what she was holding. It took 26 eggs and a lot of patience from me. I don't think I would want to see another omelet for the rest of my life. The damnable secretary cooked every single one of those eggs and had me, Kakashi and the Hokage to eat them as omelets. She finally was able to hold Taro, and for once in his long miserable life, Taro was not in pain. Considering we managed to put this mission to rest, how about you giving us a real mission for once? I am this close to burning a hole in the side of a mountain. I am that angry that you had used to do 5 times more missions than most genin teams ever had to do. The Hokage laughed and looked at me, but in the end, you got your wish, you got to do 5 missions per day. I don't see why you are complaining, Naruto. The shops no longer overcharge you, you received a decent pay, and your team is ready for tougher missions. Quote. I am this close to just changing to my real form and either eating the old man whole, and burning the entire building down, or just cremate the manipulative old man. It turned out he actually got me to do exactly what he wanted, and all the while he had me believing that we could get through the necessary D-rank missions faster. So how many more of these chores do I have to do to at least be able to do our first C rank? I know that no matter what I say, you are going to get me to do things your way. So how many more D-rank missions must we do? The old man began laughing his head off. Not an even one more, I happen to have your client waiting for you. He pressed the intercom button and smiled. Haruno sent in Tazuna. I think this team is ready for the mission he wanted to hire our village for. Quote. I was not expecting much, I mean with my sense of smell I could smell the scent of booze on him as he stepped into the hallway. This gave me the impression the guy didn't just drink his liquor, the man must shower in it too. I mean the stench was even making me dizzy. The man was fat, with a bald spot, and was average height. He looked at me and the others on my team with a goofy look on his face. Hokage, don't you got a better team than this? We got a punk-looking pink-haired floozy, a white-haired scarecrow that looks even more bored than I am, a black-haired emo, and a blonde kid who doesn't look smart enough to tie his own shoelaces. Quote. I looked at him and began walking towards him. When he was not expecting it, I pumped energy through my legs and appeared right behind him. I was holding a kunai to his throat. Do you want to repeat that? So tell me, you fat pathetic drunken old fart, do you have a death wish? 'Cause if you do, I would be more than happy to cut you like a trout and let your guts spill on the floor. Quote. Hiruzen looked at the client and then at me. Naruto, you can't kill our client, it would ruin our village's reputation. Tazuna, I would hope that you understand, for a simple escort mission these people are more than able to do it, but if you really feel like spending more I can assign you a different team, it will cost you more since it would require a higher mission rank. Quote. The fat idiot actually began to laugh. Kids these days sure can't take a joke, I was only kidding. This team will be great, I barely even noticed this kid get behind me. All I want is to get home safe and sound. I came to buy some construction materials and collect some money on some work my company did. Quote. With the extra cash I simply don't feel safe on my own, so I decided to spend some of it by hiring an escort mission with your village. I expect that at most we will run into some bandits, but like I said, these kids will be more than enough to deal with such a threat. Quote. He walked over to the Hokage and in front of us, Sorry that I insulted you, but I only did it to break the ice. So Hokage, how long till my escort is ready to leave and we can be on our way? The old man looked at us. Team, you have 5 minutes to pack and be ready for a week-long mission. This mission is to escort our client to his hometown in Wave. You are to ensure his safe arrival home. You may return to the village once the mission is complete and he is safely back in his home in his hometown. Quote. I just looked at the other members of my team and began patting my belt pouch. I don't know about the others, but I am always ready. I have everything I will need in a sealing scroll and I am ready to go. Quote. Sasuke smiled and he began to nod his head. It seems Sakura was the only one that had not prepared a sealing scroll for something like this. Well, I need more than 5 minutes, a girl takes longer to get ready. I would be able to get everything ready in 5 minutes if Sasuke helps me pack. Quote. I for maybe the first time in my entire time knowing my cousin felt actual pity for him. Okay, Sasuke will help you pack your junk. Go ahead, me and Kakashi will go with the client and wait for you two by the gate. Quote. Sasuke was glaring at me, either he was really angry about something or his eyes were beginning to activate. Can I have a word with you in private before I go and help Sakura cousin? I saw Sakura leave with such a smile on her face. I walked outside to the rooftop of the building through an open window. Sasuke was quick to follow. As soon as we reached the rooftop, I heard Sasuke take a deep breath. What is wrong with you? I don't want to help her pack or be anywhere in her home alone with her. I looked at him and realized he actually thought that I was being serious. I stayed quiet and I could tell him it was a noble sacrifice for the good of the team, but even I understood where he was coming from. Will you relax? It's not like you are the one going to do the packing. I mean, would I really subject my cousin to that kind of horror? Have a little faith, I will take care of it. Sasuke was not buying it, he simply gave me a look that to me screamed how. I will send a shadow clone that will change to look like you, the same thing I did back when I helped you evaded your stalkers. I mean, after the life I had, what could be the most horrible thing she could do to the clone that would be worse? Sasuke relaxed a little and looked at me. So that was your plan when you agreed that I would help her pack? I looked at him and began shaking my head. I never realized that I would have to have this conversation. Look, we want to get the drunk loser home as quickly as possible. We both know that this mission is not going to be any different than a D rank mission for both of us, but maybe we will get lucky and the drunk is lying through his teeth. A real difficult mission that might even get you to qualify for the Chunin exams. Quote. He looked at me and began to smile. If I am a Chunin, then our team would have to break up, and I would be assigned to a new team. I could even be lucky enough not to have the Pink Banshee as a member. Quote. I looked at him and began wondering if that was the only reason he was smiling. Exactly, and to do that I will be the proverbial scapegoat again. Like I said, I sent a shadow clone while you had your back turned. He should be helping her pack as we speak. Quote. As we walked into the office, Sakura was nowhere to be found, and sure enough, we walked with our drunk client to the gate. You do realize that actually quitting drinking would make you a lot safer when you travel. He just looked at me and began shaking his head. Look, kid, I need to drink, all right. I have gone through so many horrible things in my life that drinking helps me forget about those memories. I imagine in a few years you will want to hit the bottle, and one day you will tell a kid the same thing I did. Quote. Kakashi was actually smiling for some odd reason. Any idea how long till Sakura finishes packing? I looked at Kakashi and told him she would get done in 5 minutes or less. He asked me how was I so sure. I got the most horrible memory from the clone and I looked at an extremely angry Sakura coming my way. My shadow clone had actually managed to get her to pack everything she needed. For some odd reason she was trying to get my clone to help her pick clothing. I am happy to say he really put his foot down when she said she needed to try on some underwear and he should pick which one looked best. He actually did something stupid too. He said that he would rather go blind than see her in any sort of underwear. He did everything he could to pack everything that was essential. He actually manages to finish packing her things, and she cooked him something as a thank you for helping her. That was pretty much what made my clone dispel and I got this horrible memory. For a second I actually looked at Tazuna as he was drinking liquor out of his gourd. You know, Tazuna, you are right. One day I will want to have a drink to help me forget some horrible memories. Like the one I got today. now excuse me while I get something to drink. Quote. I turned around and took something from my storage scroll, and funny enough it was a bottle. I took a big drink of it, and Sasuke looked at me with a look of utter confusion. What is exactly that happened that was so horrible? Did the shadow clone find her vibrator? Did she try to get to use it in him? I put my bottle back in the storage scroll and looked at him. He became quiet in less than a second. Worse, much worse. Do you remember when I said she could not do something more horrible than the things I went through growing up? Well, I was wrong. From now on leave the cooking for this team to me. You don't want to taste her cooking unless you have a death wish. Quote. As we walked, Sakura kept glaring at me, and for some, I really didn't care. I grew up eating stuff people threw away, and things people wouldn't feed their dogs. That tell you how simply horrible her cooking is. As I walked down the road I realized something rather odd. In the past 3 months, our village has been in a dry season, which means there hasn't been any rain in months. In truth, the only thing that keeps the crops alive is the underground water deposits in the Occasion River. I walked over to the very obvious puddle and looked down at it. Now I know you are there, and I rather parley than to have to do something stupid that would get you both killed. I have to ask, however, who was the idiot that thought that hiding in an illusion of a puddle was a good idea? They were still not ending the illusion. Honestly, we had water restrictions imposed on us. We haven't had a single drop of rain in months. This is as convincing as a bush of red roses in the middle of the desert. Quote. I heard someone hitting a guy and the guy complaining. They finally stopped the illusion. See, I told you, blend in with the surrounding. Do you see any rivers near here? No, you have to excuse my idiot brother. Sometimes I think he was dropped when he was a baby and hit his head. Quote. I looked at her, black hair, rather nice figure, and she actually was rather smart. What can I say? I can respect a woman like her. The name is Naruto Uzumaki, and what would be your name, miss? She smiled and looked at me, scratching the back of her head with the hand she didn't have what looked like a chained gauntlet. Oria is my name and this is my idiot brother Orin. You said you wanted to parley. What do you want to discuss? I looked at her and smiled. Well, Oria, it is plain to see that you don't want to harm either me or my team, which makes me wonder, who are you really after? We were told he was afraid of bandits, not rogue ninja from Mist, so who are you two really after? Orin looked at me and began laughing. Why, the stupid drunk you are guarding. Who else? There is this crime boss in the town. This guy is building a bridge and he hired our boss to get rid of that drunk, to stop the building of a bridge, or so we were told. Quote. I looked at Oria and touched her free hand and kissed it. This, of course, for some strange reason made Sakura angry and Oria began to blush. Thank you for telling me this. Mind telling me who hired your boss? She tried to hide her blushing face, which caused her to pull on the chain on her gauntlet, which caused her brother to fall down. Gato. His name is Gato. He is a sick pervert that owns a transport company. After so many bandit camps I killed, I had heard quite a few things about the supposed crime lords on the nations around Fire Country. Gato was one of the people that I heard about, but he was not described as a mighty crime lord. He was a pathetic joke. Bandits openly ridicule him. They say that if it wasn't for his shipping company, his criminal enterprise would have gone under years ago. Gato of Gato Shipping. Yeah, I heard some things about that guy. Supposedly he is a big-time shipping mogul that ships anything to anywhere. I hear he mostly ships and distributes fish and other low-level production goods. Quote. I had to admit that Kakashi was right. He certainly did that, but that wasn't the only thing he did or shipped. I decided to look at them and could not help but to feel pity for the two fools. Gato was using them, plain and simple. From what I heard those bandits say, it was clear that he had no intention of paying them at all. I felt the rage doing in my gut, and I felt the need, the desire of killing Gato in the most painful manner possible. Using people as disposable tools were unforgivable. Yes, I also know quite a bit about Gato from all those bandit camps I destroyed. He is also involved in money laundering, prostitution, slavery, and drug distribution. He is no major crime lord. He is scum, plain and simple. Quote. The bandits openly made fun of him. Calling him a failure would be a compliment compared to some of the things the bandits said about him. Orin, let me be blunt here. He will more than likely have you do the job of killing the drunk we are supposed to protect, and then kill Orin, drug Oria and sell her as a sex slave. Quote. Oria looked at me and I could see that she didn't like that one bit. Who would like to hear that their boss would one day turn her first into a junkie and then a prostitute? Are you sure about that, Naruto? I saw the look of fear Sakura and Sasuke was giving me. I guess it means my killer intent leaked out during my little outburst. I am. Bandits say that if it wasn't because of his shipping company he would be either dead or out of business. They use drugs to get the women they kidnap hooked, and then to maintain their habit they send them to the brothels. Quote. I looked at Tazuna who looked afraid to me. That is more than likely why he sent you to kill our client. If Tazuna completes the bridge he is making, that would mean an extra way for his town to send goods, basically killing the monopoly Gato depends on. The other more affluent crime lords would want to kill him as he is no longer useful. Quote. As soon as I finished saying that, Oria looked at me. As much as I appreciate your concern, Naruto, and I do, what do you propose we do about this? We got a mission to kill that fool you are guarding, and you got a mission to guard the same fool we have to kill. Tazuna looked to me like he was having mixed feelings about what he heard. On the one side a pretty young woman was talking about him, on the other, she was called him a fool twice. Quote. I began scratching my chin and began nodding my head, and it finally hit me. Well, actually you and your brother don't have a mission at all. Did Gato pay you a single Ryo? No, of course, he didn't. He just made a verbal agreement, didn't he? Well, sorry to be vulgar in front of a lady like yourself, but that sort of agreement is as good as a fart. It gets blown away in the wind. Quote. We, on the other hand, have a signed agreement. The fact that he lied through his teeth means nothing, because at the end of the day he will have to pay it or his business credibility will go down the drain. Orin, I am not trying to trick you. Gato has no intention of paying you or your boss. Go back to your boss and tell the others this before we end up doing something regrettable. Quote. She looked at me with a confused look on her face. What would be regrettable? I told her it was always regrettable to kill such a lovely young lady when we could avoid it. This made Oria blush and her brother start laughing his head off. Well, as much as I am enjoying this, sis, he has a point. No reason to risk our necks for a false promise. We will tell Zabuza all about this. You will have to find a way to make our boss a deal better than the one Gato promised. However, our boss isn't what you call having a lot of patience or mercy like me and my sister here. Quote. I looked at them and nodded my head in agreement. They both took off, and I turned around and looked at Tazuna. He looked afraid for a second there. Stop looking at me like that, you lying drunk bridge builder. We are going to get you home and finish the mission, but you better pay it. Quote. Tazuna looked at Kakashi and the others before smiling like he just owns the lottery. Of course I will pay it. If you manage to do that, your village will be forever friends with my town. I looked at Kakashi and he looked at Sasuke and Sakura. You know, Naruto, his lie is a total and absolute breach of contract. We could easily return to the village and leave Tazuna to suffer the consequences of his lies. I, however, see that you two realized that Tazuna didn't lie because he wanted, did you, Tazuna? I also heard it in his voice, the sound that is not easy to forget, especially since I once made that very sound myself. The sound of a voice filled with desperation. His town must really be in a bad situation economically and couldn't afford the mission fee for the mission he really needed to ask for. Quote. The difference between dealing with bandits and dealing with highly trained ninjas of another village means this mission, instead of being in C rank, it should be in A rank, and that means the difference in cost is astronomical. It's the difference between a pebble and a perfectly cut diamond. Quote. Tazuna began to nod his head as I said that. That is true, Naruto. Gato has pretty much choked the economy of Wave by controlling the only means of shipping our goods. The cost is so high that we simply can't ship anything, and thus our economy slowed down to a halt. He then uses the desperation it creates to force the people of Wave to do his bidding, even against their will. He turned the people of my town into slaves, and those that refuse he kills as an example. Quote. I looked at him and couldn't help but to smile. Well, which is yet another reason why we can't fail now, isn't it? This would also be a good opportunity for a certain cousin of mine to show off his skills, and a chance for a certain banshee to show how sharp her fangs really are. Not to mention she might actually show her true colors to the formerly mentioned cousin of mine. Quote. This, of course, had the intended effect that the other two jumped at the chance to continue the mission. I did not, however, like how they reacted to my killer intent. I did not project my entire killer intent, only a fraction, and they didn't react that well to it. Which means they both are ninjas, but they are as green as they come when it comes to actual combat. I sent a shadow clone when everyone began to walk away. I knew full well the village would sing praises to the people that killed me, but they did value the last of the Uchiha a lot more than the joy of seeing me die. I sent the message to the Hokage that a backup squad would be required. I also told him of the lie and the circumstances for Tazuna lying to him. I quickly caught up with them and we had a nice relaxing walk. There was a nice river nearby and the breeze actually was quite refreshing. I was truly enjoying the breeze until I noticed something that didn't quite add up. It was a rabbit, but not any normal rabbit. The rabbit was female and she had what I would call the fur that a rabbit would have in midwinter, which means this rabbit grew up indoors, and in a cold climate. Alright people, get down. The second I yelled and they did get down on the ground, a large blade came spinning across from where they had been standing up. Had I not screamed they would all be injured if not outright killed. Some greeting you have. I guess Orya and Orin didn't deliver my message. Why don't you come down, Zabuza? You can tell me why you are attacking us. A man wearing a mask covering half his face jumped down and dislodged his weapon as he jumped down, the weapon he threw at us and which he had been using to stand. You are something. You are not even affected by my killer intent. I would expect that from Kakashi the copycat ninja, but not you. Why did you spare the lives of my subordinates? Did I look at him with killer intent? What I was feeling was a pleasant breeze at most. Compared to the killer intent of a dragon, this was at most a pleasant breeze. A pair of dead people make for lousy messengers. How about you drop the act, Zabuza? I can tell you are using a transformation jutsu. By the way, that is a nice perfume you are wearing. Quote. Zabuza looked at me and began laughing. Made from lilies, if you must know, you are the first person ever to notice my perfume. So tell me, Uzumaki, according to the two who you met, you think Gato will end up betraying my group? Why bother telling me that? I looked at her and smiled. She was still pretending to be a guy, and I could tell there was another man standing on the upper tree limbs listening in on our conversation. Oh, I know what you mean. You have quite the bounty on your heads. I could make quite the pile of Ryo if I killed all four of you and deliver your heads, not to mention that sword is quite the prize. Quote. I looked at her and began walking towards her. I, however, am honorable, unlike your current employer. Why don't you tell your son to come out of hiding? You two have nothing to fear from me. Quote. She smiled, or at least it looked like a smile behind that mask. How did you figure he was hiding? I looked at her and smiled at her. I told her the rabbit he used was more than likely a pet. I even told her that the rabbit had fur of a rabbit that grew up in cold weather, meaning the color and texture of her fur, and since it was summer it means the rabbit grew up indoors. So how about Zabuza, are you going to keep hiding your true appearance, or is it that you are simply shy? Zabuza began to laugh like I only heard few people do, and those people tried to kill me, so I knew that I was in big trouble. Actually, Naruto, you might not realize this, but women suffer all kinds of discrimination even if they are kunoichi. I didn't change my appearance because I am shy like you just said, it's because people don't take me seriously when I show them what I really look like. Her body began to shift and change before my very eyes. Her hair got softer and curlier, her face became gentle, her lips fuller and alluring, her chest, waist, and legs became the very definition of an hourglass figure, a true beauty. I also don't show my true appearance because it tends to make me angry. It reminds me of the bastard that once tried to kill me and our son. The man who most considered my husband, but in reality, he was just a man who raped me. Quote. Sorry to tell you, Orya and Orin are dead. I don't allow failures to live. They actually bought that pathetic lie about Gato one day betraying us. I have seen the money, Naruto. Now your only choice is to get out of my way. Let me kill that drunk bridge builder, and beg for your life or die. Quote. She ran towards Tazuna and with just barely a second I blocked her sword with mine. The look of shock on her face was priceless, as I placed my hand on her left breast. I could say it was an accidental grope, but who am I kidding? It was intentional and not for the purpose that everyone looking was thinking. I quickly decided to use divine dividing and kept activating that power over and over again for almost a whole 2 minutes. Using this skill I inherited from dear mom, I can divide the strength and power of a person in half, and take that half for myself every 10 seconds. I couldn't have done it to this extent if I was human, but I am not. She finally recovered from the shock and put some distance between me and herself. How dare you? You first get in between me and my target and then you decide to grope me. She did a quick series of hand signs and she must have thought she sent a large wave of water at me, trying to drown me it seems. Too bad for her, I was not your ordinary human, I am a dragon and a divine dragon at that. I opened my mouth and took a deep breath, drawing in all the water and the chakra that was used to control it. With one gulp I finished drinking all that water and chakra. And here I was thinking you were mad. Thanks, Zabuza, I was really thirsty. Quote. I ran towards her and smiled, but you look a little hungry to me. Here is a nice knuckle sandwich, nice and crispy. One swift uppercut to the jaw and she looked a bit woozy from the way she was staggering. The next thing that I saw was a couple of Senbon needles strike her in the neck. A masked hunter came down where she fell down and looked at me. Thanks, I needed that distraction. I have been hunting her down for weeks. If it wasn't for that punch I would never have gotten her to expose her neck like that. Quote. I looked at the masked hunter and realized he had the symbol of the village hidden in the mist on the mask. A hunter of Karigakar, I take it. Just remember I did you a favor. You owe me one. Quote. She turned around and began laughing as she picked up the supposed dead body of Zabuza and looked at me. Had I not killed her she was going to kill you and your friends. I guess that makes us pretty much even. See you later, ninja of Konoha. Quote. I tried to delay her as much as I could for Kakashi to do something, but he actually just stood there with a look of shock and he continued to look confused even as the hunter took Zabuza away with her. Damn it, Kakashi, what do you want? A written invitation for you to step in. You know that we are going to end up fighting them again. That fake hunter just took off with Zabuza. Chances are we are going to end up fighting him in a week. Quote. Sakura looked at me with a look of sheer disgust. First you grope our enemy and now you are making excuses for failing to kill her. That hunter saved our lives, you should be grateful. Quote. I gave her a look that made her stop mid-rant. If I care to hear your opinion, Banshee, I will ask for it. Hunter ninjas don't take off with the corpse of their targets, they eliminate the body and only take the head back with them. This means that instead of killing Zabuza, that fake hunter saved her life. Quote. Sakura looked at me and then at Kakashi. Naruto is right, you can put a person in a state of near death by putting pressure on a point in the neck. That is why she used those needles, but it will take at least a week for Zabuza to recover from that. Quote. Sorry Naruto, I guess I was so shocked at seeing you grope a woman that I didn't react in time to stop that fake hunter. I mean, usually you are a perfect gentleman. I guess you had a reason for doing that. Quote. I looked at Kakashi and began to relax and took a deep breath, slowly letting it out. I have to have physical contact for one of my skills, that is why her wave jutsu was actually so powered down. Quote. Kakashi almost looked relieved that I said that. Good, I will have to keep that in mind. I guess that it also made her physically weaker since you managed to knock her out with one uppercut to the jaw. Quote. I couldn't help but smile as he finished saying that. I am always a gentleman with the ladies, at least to those that deserve that treatment. Sakura screamed at me that I was always rude to her. I quickly turned around and looked at her. I told her point blank range that I was a gentleman with the ladies, meaning she was no lady. Come on Tazuna, we need to get you home. My team needs to get ready to do some training, and I need to find a way to get proof of how much of a deadbeat Gato really is. I began walking right next to Tazuna, who almost looked happy to be alive. We continued to walk till we reached a large river, and near the edge of the river was a small fishing boat. In truth, I was not expecting to have these many people. My boat is small, it can sit at most 4 people. Quote. I looked at him and couldn't help but to smile. I wouldn't worry about it, Tazuna. I can walk my way to the other side of the river. Sakura, being the idiot that she was, she said it was more than likely that I would drown. They all got in the boat and Tazuna began to steer the boat. I began walking right next to him. The look of shock and realization on Sakura's face was priceless. So Tazuna, how far are you in completing the bridge? He didn't say anything for a few minutes, and that is when the silhouette of the bridge came through the mist. About 3/4 actually. So tell me Naruto, what do you think of my little bridge? It doesn't look like much, granted. The decorations will be done after the main portion of the construction is done after all. Quote. The bridge looked like something out of a fairy tale. The bridge was supported by large columns of concrete and iron. The surface looked like it could withstand a hurricane, and it had many loading and unloading lifts, the columns, 1 each. You know, for a drunken bridge builder, I have to say that is an amazing looking bridge. Are you using the water to power the lifts? A number of goods and materials you will be able to upload and unload from the bridge itself is amazing. Quote. Kakashi and Sasuke just kept quiet as I said that and kept looking at the bridge. Nice to see someone actually realizes why there are so many lifts on the columns. Yes, Naruto, this will be our way to end the monopoly that has crippled my town. With the added cash flow from the new business my town will have, I will more than likely be able to pay the mission. Quote. Kakashi, being the constant pessimist, decided to burst our client's little bubble. That is only if you manage to finish the bridge, which is exactly what Gato will try very hard to prevent. Come on Naruto, let's check the pillars. I have a sneaky suspicion about them. Quote. Kakashi jumped off the bridge and took off towards one pillar and I took off towards another. As soon as we got to the pillar I walked up the pillar to a very hard place for anyone to see, and sure enough, there was a set of explosives placed on it. I began to look at the bomb and realized that it was set to explode once a large weight comes near the pillar. Great, the explosives are set to go off the second more construction material is brought to the construction site. Better take care of it. I quickly took a kunai and began to disarm the explosives. I sent 5 more shadow clones to do the other support pillars. I made sure to keep the disarmed explosives, waste not, wants not, as the saying goes. I walked down and looked at Kakashi, managed to take care of your pillar Naruto. How about the over 5? I told him I sent some shadow clones. I showed him one of the bombs and the other 5 shadow clones came and delivered to me the storage scroll with the other 5 bombs. What do you plan to do with those explosives Naruto? I looked at him and began laughing, he almost became pale as he heard me laugh. I am only going to put these toys to good use and give Gato a nice present. Why so serious Kakashi? From afar the town looked a whole lot bigger than Konoha, but as soon as I and the others began to walk through the streets I realized that a lot of these people were living pretty close to how I did growing up. Granted, at the least they didn't have a pack of what I should call rabid hyenas trying to kill them every single chance they got. I looked at Sakura, who was practically growling at me if it wasn't for the fact that she was looking a little bit green around the gills to actually growl at me. Who ever heard of a fox that got motion sickness? I began to hear more about the decorations and I kept telling him that red with gold decorations is practically begging for a stupid bandit group to think the thing really had gold on it and try to rip pieces off to get some easy money. He just kept on laughing. It was until we got to his home that he became quiet. The house, or should I say the building, looked more like a renovated office building than a home. It had 4 floors, about 5 windows on each side and large metallic doors. Okay, Tazuna, no offense, but this place looks like an office building, even a storage building if you look at the doors. He laughed again and he began to dust off the front door till I saw what looked like a rusted insignia. Actually Naruto, this was both a storage building and my office building. I had a large construction company, but even since Gato took control of shipping, he has made it impossible for me or anyone to get the materials we need to do business. I finally had to shut down my company and using the few materials I had renovated this place and made it my home. Quote. Not bad for a drunken loser if I do say so myself. My daughter lives here with her son, and once her husband used the storage space on the bottom floor as his fish packing plant. The thing with Gato is that anyone, and I mean anyone, that even looks brave enough to stand up to him, he immediately kills in the most humiliating and painful manner possible, to set an example. Quote. He began to walk towards the door and took a key from his belt. He opened the door. Enough doom and gloom for one day. Come right in, guys. This is my chance for you to really marvel at what I can do. Quote. As we walked in I had to agree that compared to how my place looks, the interior of this house looked to me like a palace. I am not kidding. The place had working light, plumbing, a water heater, working shower, toilet, and there was not even an inch of the walls covered in dog feces. Well, I certainly would call this place a very nice home, Tazuna. He looked at me and began to nod his head as I said that. We all began walking towards the dining room and saw that the place was connected to the kitchen. I heard someone using some pots and pans. Looks like we are lucky. My daughter is making dinner. Tsunami, stops what you are doing and come over here. We got some foreign guests I need to introduce you to. Quote. You could have knocked me out with a feather. To say that she was beautiful was a clear understatement. This was by no means the same as the 2 pathetic creeps that stalk Sasuke non-stop. Her hair was shoulder length, her figure screamed of her being a lady, her ample bosom, her waistline and the shape of her hips. I mean, for crying out loud, this woman was a lady, and there was no comparison between her and the pink banshee at all. She looked at me and then began to blush. Is there something on my face? Tizuna looked at me and the others began to look at me with different looks. Kakashi looked at me with an amused look on his face. Sasuke was confused, and Sakura was glaring daggers at me. You sure do. A lovely face, but it would look even better with a smile. So come on Tsunami, who about you show us a beautiful smile. Tizuna could not contain it anymore and began laughing his head off. Here I was concerned that Kakashi would be the one to hit on my daughter the second he looked at her, and who is it the one that starts to flirt with her like a natural-born Casanova? Come on guys, I am sure my precious daughter has dinner already. Quote. I took a quick whiff from the direction she came and I certainly like what I was smelling. I didn't want to ruin the surprise she had prepared. As soon as the others were seated I began taking the pots from the kitchen. Why aren't you seated, Naruto? I can do this myself. Quote. I told her that she cooked all the food, the least I could do is help her carry it to the table. I swear I heard Sakura whisper show off as soon as I got done serving my own food. We all got done with saying grace and I finally managed to try to take hold of my spoon when I began hearing someone running from upstairs and down the ladder. As soon as I looked at the ladder I saw a kid who clearly had run from his bedroom. He was having a hard time breathing. At first I got to admit I was feeling concerned, but as soon as I was about to get off my seat to check on him something happened that made me reconsider. You are all fools. Gato is invincible. No one can defeat him. You are stupid fools that are going to get yourselves killed for nothing. You come here giving everyone false hope. Take whatever you can from us and abandon us. You don't know pain. You don't know the hell Gato has put us through. You are stupid fools that don't know anything. Well, if I had been looking forward to tasting the tasty soup and other food in front of me before this, I was not hungry at all. I guess the kid needs a wake-up call more than me checking if he was alright. He clearly was alright if he can shout like that. I walked up to where Inari was and without saying a word I picked him up. I carried him, kicking and screaming that I should let him go while I carried him to my seat and I placed him on the seat I had been seated. Inari, let me ask you some things, and maybe you will understand something about us, or at the very least understand something about me. I was looking at him with a smile, but the kid was scared. Tell me, Inari, did you grow up and the only presents you got was a beating and people deny you any food? Inari looked at me and began shaking his head. Tell me, did have to sleep near garbage bins and had to fight rats to get your food each day? Again Inari began shaking his head. Tell me, Inari, do people chase you around town each of your birthdays with torches and pitchfork, screaming that you should die? Again Inari began shaking his head. Finally, Inari, has anyone in this town thrown you outside their place of business, told you that a thing like you has no right to live, much less step into his store? Have the doctors in this town told you they rather see you die than treat any sort of injury? Crying helps no one. Get up, grow up, get stronger, don't just sit there crying and feeling sorry for yourself. You got to do everything you can to make your own life better. If you don't do it, then you deserve the pain and suffering you get. Quote. That is when Tizuna finally decided to speak as I finished. Naruto, no one deserves to be treated like that. I mean, no kid would ever be treated like that and be able to survive. It's inhumane. We don't treat even criminals like that. Quote. I looked at Tsunami. I am sorry Tsunami, but I sort of lost my appetite. Now if you will excuse me, I need some fresh air. I hate to contradict you in front of your daughter Tizuna, but there is someone who was and is treated like that still. Quote. I walked towards the door and just as I opened the door I looked at them, and that person is me. Quote. I walked outside and began to look for a nice tall tree. I could really use a nap. I saw one that was by the market. It was also overlooking several alleyways. I walked up the tree and when I made it to the biggest branch I closed my eyes. That is when I was back inside my mind. I know you told yourself those last words no less than 1,000 times growing up, Naruto, but you have to understand that boy is just human. He is not like those of our kind. Why did you have to tell him that? Feeling sympathy for the human kid. Or did you do it to help his mother? I couldn't deny that was true in a sense. What can I say? Father is always able to read me like an open book. I tried to help all three of them actually. Tazuna doesn't need the added stress of his grandson acting out, Tsunami doesn't need to feel bad hearing and seeing her son behave like that, and Inari doesn't understand that behaving like that will lead him to be truly hurt. Quote, Dad just looked at me and I could almost feel a question coming that I simply could not avoid. Yes, she is beautiful and no, I am not trying to do something to make her feel sorry for me enough that she will be nice to me, or even though she is available I cannot fill the stepfather role in this particular family. Quote, he just began laughing, and I mean really laughing. Son, what I was going to say is that what you did was a very thoughtful thing and I am very proud of you, but since you pretty much opened that can of worms, would you be surprised to find that she went outside in the middle of the night to have a drink at a local bar? That seemed oddly specific. That is when I heard someone scream for a person to stop and get away from her. I opened my eyes and sure enough, there was Tsunami, wearing some rather nice and reserved clothes, being chased by a creep who was stumbling, and I found it a miracle that he didn't stab himself with his own weapon. Just as they moved right underneath the tree branch I was trying to sleep on, I walked around the branch till I was standing on the bottom of it. The second the man caught her and was trying to rip her clothes off, that was pretty much it for me. I used as much of my strength to jump downward and within a second I was behind him. I took the knife he was using and slit his throat without even thinking about it. The body hit the ground and next thing I know Tsunami is hugging me, and not in the simple thank you hug either. She was crying and she was making absolutely no sense when she talked. I quickly sent a shadow clone to dispose of the body and try to find why this man was trying to rape her. As soon as I picked her up and began carrying her home, she seemed to relax a little. I ran through on every rooftop of the way back to her home, and the further we got from the place she was attacked the calmer she got. It was until I reached the window to her bedroom that I got the memories from my shadow clone. If before I wanted to murder Gato, now I had another reason why the slug of a man needed to suffer. The clone destroyed the body much like a hunter would. He took all his possessions and burned the dead, naked corpse till there was nothing left. His possessions were the real key to why this man was trying to rape Tsunami. He changed his appearance and made it back to the man's home. He entered the place and found out that the man was tasked by Gato to seduce Tsunami, sleep with her, and kill her in her sleep, take her dead corpse and put it on display at the entrance of the local church. According to Gato, this would cause Tazuna to become so depressed that instead of building the bridge he would go drink even more, or outright kill himself. If she didn't want to sleep with him at all, raping her and leaving her to eventually commit suicide was his actual preferred outcome. Thanks to this I had an easy cover identity to infiltrate Gato's organization. Right now, however, I had to deal with what happened to Tsunami. I had to ask why would she put herself in harm's way like this. As I went into her bedroom through the window, I placed her gently on her bed. Tsunami, you have to tell me, why in the world would you go out in the middle of the night and drink with a total stranger? You do know how dangerous that is for you, don't you? She took some time to try and make herself calm down. A deep breath later she looked at me. Naruto, it's not easy being responsible for raising my son all by myself. I sometimes get really sad to think that I will never be treated right. I mean, some of the women don't know that I know. They actually say Inari's father is not my husband and that I am some sort of prostitute. Quote, I sometimes go to that bar to drink and forget how miserable my days really are. I will admit it was rather stupid of me to go on this last blind date, and had you not been there I shudder to think what that man would have done to me. Quote, she began crying and I, of course, didn't want her to feel bad, so I tried my best to comfort her. I moved near her and began giving her a sort of shoulder to cry on as I pat her on her back. It's not easy being a single parent. Inari has no male role model. My father thinks that I should wait till his bridge is done for me to even think about dating, and I get so lonely sometimes I cry myself to sleep. Quote, I couldn't believe what I was hearing, this from the cheerful woman who made dinner for her family a few moments ago. I guess I still had a lot to learn about women. I placed my hand on her shoulder and began to rub her left shoulder as a form of support and moral comfort. That is all right, Tsunami. Those women who said those awful things are probably picking on you since they are very miserable in their own marriages. Some might even be jealous that you don't have to deal a person like their own lousy husbands. Tsunami, you need to take better care of yourself, if not only for Inari's sake but for your own good too. Quote, she stopped crying and looked at me. Her makeup was a mess and I did my best to dry her tears. Thank you Naruto, I feel better now. It's just that sometimes I feel so miserable hearing these women say those things. They may be acting out their own frustrations, but I am a person with a heart and feelings too. They make me feel unwanted, or undesirable. Quote. She placed my hand on her left barely covered breast. See Naruto, see how my heartbeat is. I heard how hard your life has been Naruto from that man named Kakashi. If anyone knows how hard life is, it's you. It's just that what they say hurts my feelings, and I get so lonely. Quote. Without even giving me a chance to react, she leaned closer to me and began giving me a rather passionate kiss on my lips. From there the entire situation went from me trying to comfort her, to me and her working hard to get out of our clothes, and we ended up mating much like a pair of animals in heat. As we continued to go at it, I tried my best to make her feel good. Then again, I never did this before, so I pretty much had only her moans and her heated requests to either go faster, or slower or deeper. I just kept listening to my own instincts and whatever she was either moaning or saying. The next morning I woke up feeling like never in my entire life, and that was when I noticed two important facts. What I remember happening last night was not a dream. Tsunami was very much still naked, and her arms were around my waist, and the smell in the room left little to no chance for me to think that what I experienced last night was a dream. As I looked down, I saw her hair was a mess, and she had a smile on her face that made the first one I saw when I met her pale in comparison. Tsunami, I am going out to try and find Naruto. I don't care what that pink-haired teammate of his says, it's not healthy for someone like him to sleep out in the streets. Quote. I heard him come closer to her bedroom door. Tsunami, are you all right? That is when Tazuna opened the door thinking something bad was happening, and that is when Tazuna found our clothes on the floor of her bedroom. Me and Tsunami as naked as the day we were born, and in bed together. Quote. She didn't even wait for her father to calm down before she looked at her father and smiled. Oh, as you can see, I am feeling wonderful, and you need to look for Naruto. He spent the entire night with me. Now if you don't mind, I am in the mood for a second helping of what I had last night. Quote. That made Tazuna, much to my surprise, turn beet red, and basically close the door behind him and leave in a hurry. Now that my father is not here, I got to tell you Naruto, you really know how to make a woman like me feel good, but don't worry, I know that eventually, you will end up marrying someone else, so from now, think of it as gaining experience in how to make a woman happy in bed, not that you need much from how things went last night. Quote. I looked at her and could tell she was just teasing me. I will never understand why she was teasing me. I have a better way to say it if that is what you want. How about we are friends, who just happen to enjoy some casual romantic moments. Quote. She placed her head on my chest and began laughing. Like what? Occasional lovers, or friends with benefits? I wonder how Inari would think of. I smiled and placed my hand on her. Don't worry Tsunami, I will try to give Inari some advice. I will have to spend most of the day either helping your father or keeping some idiot from harming him. Quote. I got out of bed, took a shower, and since Tsunami thought it would save us some time, we took that shower together, which in turn ended up causing the shower to be a little longer than expected, brushed my teeth, and went down the stairs to help with making breakfast. As soon as I walked downstairs, I heard some people talking. Does anyone know where that freak Naruto is sleeping? It's going to be a major pain to find that creep and wake him up. How about we forget about him and let him keep sleeping Sasuke? Well, nothing ruins my day faster than having to hear Sakura speak about me in such a gentle, kind, caring, and supportive way. I honestly thought that this could not get any worse, and that is when I heard Tazuna laughing and I had a bad feeling about what he was going to say. I wouldn't worry about Naruto too much. I am sure he had a very nice sleep and is probably going to wake up early. He is probably only taking his time taking a shower. Why do I get the impression I think Tazuna knows how and with whom I took my morning shower with? As I reached the kitchen, I began to look in the pantry. Maybe there was something there I could use to make a quick breakfast for everyone. Is there something, in particular, you are looking for Naruto? I didn't even turn around and just told Tsunami that I was looking for dishwashing soap. She laughed and told me it was on the cover under the sink. Thank goodness, knowing Sakura, she might put some of it in my morning coffee and pretend that she thought it was sugar. She cooked and I cleaned. It was pretty much when the others that began eating their breakfast that I finally finished cleaning the pans. I sat down and had myself a simple egg, sunny side up, some toast and a glass of juice that I served myself. Sakura looked at me with an odd expression on her face. Well, actually Sakura is pretty odd most of the times in the morning. Well, she asked me why didn't I take the glass that was already full from the table. For a second there I wanted to ask her to take a taste out of it to make sure, and that is when I remembered Dad telling me about indirect kissing. That pretty much made me realize that serving my own juice out of the pitcher was the smart decision. I closed my eyes and said grace for the food I was about to eat and to give a small prayer of sympathy for the poor unfortunate soul that would eventually kiss Sakura on the regular basis. I know most of the times I seem like I hate humans, and that is not true. I certainly feel pity for the poor person that ends up getting married to the pink banshee. So Naruto, did you have a good night's sleep? I hope Kakashi doesn't notice the blush on Tsunami's face as he finished asking me that. I took a bite of my food and a drink from my glass before answering that question. It's a pretty harmless question, but considering how I spent last night I had to be really careful how I answer that. Yes, I had a wonderful night's rest. Never slept better in my whole life. So Kakashi, what exactly is the schedule for today? I hoped that Kakashi would take my subtle hint that a change of topics would be appreciated. He just began laughing and finished his own breakfast. Cereal, fruit, and a glass of water. Great, I ended up having 3 eggs for breakfast and 4 slices of toast. For today you got to guard Tazuna and his construction crew's work on the bridge. Sasuke will be teaching Sakura the tree walking exercise and I will send a message to Konoha that we need some reinforcements. Quote, I could tell Sasuke was not happy to hear that part about teaching her the most basic chakra control exercise there is. Actually Kakashi, I already sent a message and Sasuke and I both already know how to do the water walking exercise quite well. Remember, I had to walk because there was not enough room on the boat. So I think Sasuke would be much happier if you taught Sakura that control exercise and he joins me at either helping or keeping Tazuna and his construction crews safe. Quote, the look on his face was priceless. I guess he didn't expect me to know that much, or he was doing an excellent job of pretending to be surprised. Alright, since you two can do that level of control exercise then, by all means, keep Tazuna and his crew safe. I will teach Sakura the tree walking exercise, hopefully, it will be enough. Quote, I began to get up and sent a shadow clone to take care of the dishes. I began to walk and just as I reached the door I turned around to find Sasuke just staring at me and then at the clone. Honestly Sasuke, you do a jutsu enough, you can actually do it without having to use hand signs. We got a long day ahead, don't we, Tazuna? The man just laughed and walked towards me nodding his head. Indeed we do, we got to see how much of that bridge we can get finished today. Just as I was about to open the door I felt someone grab my hand and pulled me into a rather tight hug. Just make sure not to overwork yourself, Tiger, I want some more tender loving tonight. Next thing I know Tsunami is kissing me, but not in the way that a person kisses someone they don't know. This was a full-blown French kiss, and I was more than happy to return the favor. After a few minutes, or what felt like a few minutes of us kissing like there was no tomorrow, I smiled and I looked at the shocked look on Sasuke's and Sakura's faces. What, you never seen a pair of lovers kiss before? Come on, we got work to do, and thank you for taking care of teaching Sakura, Kakashi. Quote, we both walked away and I could hear Inari begin to complain about something. I could just imagine what he is complaining about. It was either because he felt embarrassed or that he wasn't told me and she was lovers. As soon as I got to the construction site, and it took a whole 5 minutes before something went wrong, to me it was a testament to Tazuna's ability to multitask. If this sort of thing happens often, I guess he doesn't drink on the job. I looked at him and looked at the rather upset construction workers. Alright, what is the matter? Tazuna walked over to a large concrete mixer and then he pointed at several of the gears on the outside of it. They had been welded shut, meaning the machine could not make the large cylinder spin and thus could not mix the concrete. I walked over to him and smiled. Go ahead and tell me the mixture of sand, concrete, gravel and other things this thing needs to mix. He began describing amounts and I soon realized that if the crew could load them into the large mixing cylinder then I could do something. Alright, I think I have a general idea. Go ahead and put the things into the large cylinders of these machines, I will take care of the rest. They looked at me like I was crazy until I made 3 shadow clones, and using the boost ability they took the large cylinders off the machines and began shaking them like they were mixing drinks. The entire construction crew watching just stood there with the mouth open. Just tell them where you want the mixture to pour in. They began doing that, and sure enough, the construction crews began to work and they were getting things done faster than before. I just sat down with a leaf on my forehead trying to control my chakra. I used it first to make the leaf stick to my forehead and then pushed it to make it float. Once I realized this was too easy, I began to do the same thing with my hand and was making a single kunai float and spin over my hand. Where did you learn to do that thing with the concrete, Naruto? I didn't even bother looking at Tazuna and told him that once I had to pretend to be a bartender for one of my bandit camp hunts. You know, Naruto, those containers weighed a lot. How can you mix them like you were mixing drinks at a bar? Again with the silly questions. I told him to me it was no different. To me, mixing a fruit cocktail and mixing the cement was pretty much the same thing. Take the ingredients, mix well and serve. After a few hours, we actually got done in one day what normally it would take them a week. It might also have to do with the fact that my clones dried the cement with their fire breath. Tazuna and I had a few nice conversations, and by the time lunchtime was done we were talking like we known each other for years. So Naruto, how in the world did you and my precious little girl ends up in bed together? Should I play the concerned father and ask what exactly are your intentions with my daughter? I could not believe this was coming from a guy that pretty much met his wife the same damn way I met his precious little girl, and from what I remember about last night there is nothing little about his daughter. She said that she was feeling lonely. After a rather short kissing and touching moments we sort of ended up like that. Who knew that I would end up like in one of the scenes from that disgusting book? I intend to make her happy for as long as I can, and maybe try to give some advice to Inari every once in a while. Quote. Tazuna began laughing and I could tell he was not actually that angry with my answer. Actually, hearing you say that makes me relieved. Here I was thinking that it was going to be just a one-night stand. I know the life of a ninja is dangerous, so I understand what you mean. Come on, I am sure that Tsunami must have cooked something great for lunch. She always did when she was in a good mood. Quote. As we walked I saw Kakashi and he didn't look happy at all. I can't really blame the guy. Teaching someone like Sakura is a nightmare. She probably spent the entire time complaining about how she rather be taught by her precious Sasuke. Speaking of Sasuke, he spent the entire time working on his water walking exercise while I did most of the work today. I guess it was too much for me to expect some gratitude from him. Inari was actually waiting for us. Something was odd about him. He looked really sad for some reason. I mean, the last time I met the kid he was at first screaming how we were suicidal idiots, and then he looked scared when I asked him my questions. See, Naruto, Inari is a nice kid just like I told you. Here he is waiting to greet his grandpa, but why do you look sad, Inari? Without a word, he ran towards me until he was leaning into me, and he was crying. I am sorry, Naruto, you were right, I didn't know how good of a life I had. Mom took me with her to buy groceries, and I saw how miserable the people in my town live. I've been living like royalty by comparison and I didn't even notice it. I am sorry for screaming those things, can you please forgive me? I touched his head and smiled. What is there to forgive? You didn't know any better, but now you do. Come on, Inari, we really worked up an appetite working on the bridge. You can tell me all about what you saw in town during lunch. Tazuna had a strange look on his face as soon as I finished saying that. What, you want Tsunami to be angry at us because her food got cold? That immediately made both Inari and Tazuna open the door and run towards the dining room. I guess it's true, Tsunami can be as scary as she is beautiful when angry. Who knew reading those books would come in handy? I still feel like I need a shower after I finished reading them. So how was today's training, Kakashi? Did Sakura manage to walk on the tree at all? Sakura was looking at me with a smug look on her face, so that pretty much to me the answer to that is yes. I didn't only manage to walk on that tree, but I can run to the top and back down like it's nothing. Sasuke was actually surprised if the look on his face was anything to go by. I simply took an apple and with one hand I began to use my own control exercise. The knife began to spin at such speed that it was causing a light breeze when I threw the apple in the air, and as it fell on the spinning knife the apple was cut into 8 perfect slices. That's nice. Anyone care for some apple slices? They taste great with the dessert Tsunami made. I could smell it since he came near me. Quote, "Tsunami just came over me and began hugging and kissing me. I swear if we hadn't spent so much time together doing what we did, I would be blushing brighter than a ripe tomato. Come on in, Inari, there is no need to hide, we should all eat before it gets cold. I also need to tell you a few things." Quote, "I had a wonderful meal, and my shadow clones got to work on cleaning everything in the kitchen while we ate our food. Now Inari, I plan to leave at least 2 shadow clones with you. I think it's high time you started to learn some basic self-defense. As much as I would love to stay here, I will have to return to that stinking cesspool these people call their village." Quote, "I was almost expecting the indignant remarks of Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura, but instead, I saw a crying Tsunami. She was crying and complaining about how the men in her life always end up leaving her. I knew her the grand total of 2 days, and with that little time and having slept with me a few times last night, she is already this attached to me. Tsunami, trust me, I would love to stay. I could make a pretty decent living helping your dad in the construction projects that will come after the bridge. I can also tell that me, you and Inari could become a rather happy family. I could even have something I never had in Konoha, do I dare say it, a home." Quote, "She looked at me as she wiped the tears from her face, and kept asking why. Why would I leave to go back to a place that hates me, and I obviously was miserable living there, so why return to that living hell?" I looked at her and smiled. "I have to return, Tsunami, because the idiots in that village think I have one of the tailed beasts inside me. This is a source of immense military power for them, and they would not hesitate to kill you, your father, Inari, and this entire town if it means they have to do so to get me to return to the village." Quote, "So instead of thinking of it as if I have only a week to be here, think of it as me making sure Inari is ready to defend himself and probably even you. That would make my life in that village a whole lot less miserable since I would have one less reason to worry about you too." Quote, "I really hate to say it, but after how good I felt after one night of just plain sleeping by her side, after all the time we spent doing things that would make Aika look tame, I knew one thing, well, 2 things really. One thing is the entire town was both blind and stupid, and it was going to take a real special woman to even match Tsunami. Do you really hate Konoha that much, Naruto?" Correction, Kakashi was also pretty dumb by asking me this question. He knows how the people of that village regard me, how they formed mobs to try to kill me, and that I could literally count on one hand the people that actually treated me humanely. I am not kidding. I have seen them treat a stray dog receive better than me. What was that? Give you an example. Why, I love to. A stray dog gets injured, he is taken to the village veterinarian who just happens to be Kiba's sister. I get injured. Well, getting kicked and a few people taking the opportunity to stab me would be the obvious treatment I receive. Then leave me in a gutter to bleed to death. If I was a simple human, I would have been dead years ago, which I am ever so thankful that I am not. Well, you have to understand that I have so many pleasant memories and experiences in that village. You can easily tell how happy my life is there, and if I have to explain it for those that don't realize it, this is called sarcasm. So no, I wouldn't go back there if I had a choice. I know that I don't have a choice, and I am going to do my very best to train Inari in some basic self-defense skills, finish that bridge by the end of the month, and try not to cry whenever I realize that I lost my one shot at having a caring and wonderful family of my own." Quote, "This had the intended effect that Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke becoming quiet. I got up and saw the memories of my clones picking up my dishes. As I was ready to leave the house, I felt someone pull me away from the door. And where do you think you are going? I never realized that Tsunami had been following me. To look for a place to sleep. You probably had a tough time sleeping because of me." She immediately placed a finger on my lips, pretty much telling me to stop talking. She kissed me and I had to say I really liked kissing her. As the kiss ended, she placed her head near my ear. "I told you I wanted another night of good old-fashioned loving with you, and no, you are not sleeping out there. You actually have a nice bedroom now. Come on, you have to wake up early and get ready for another day of keeping Dad safe. Not to mention Inari didn't look it, but he is excited about those self-defense lessons." Quote, "As we got to her bedroom, I saw Sakura look at us enter the bedroom. I honestly don't see the reason for her to look at me like that. It's not like this was the first night I slept with her. Another night of passionate lovemaking, and I could only think it would really take someone special to match Tsunami." That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, share and subscribe. And make sure to check out author of this fanfic. All details in description. Thanks for watching, take care, enjoy holidays.